Did you talk to Kyle much when all this was going down?
Throughout the summer, we kept in touch. We had 20-plus players, playing in different leagues. And until he signs the dotted line, I have to make sure, as always, he's improving every day. For him, the improvement was different. He had a long sophomore year for us. The USA summer that he just talked about, he led USA baseball in innings pitched. You come back and you're the workhorse again. So he had a 2-year stretch with a lot of innings, a lot of mound time. So whether he was signing or not, he needed to shut down and rest physically and give his arm some time off. So we knew either way, signing or not, that was going to be a good thing for him. But we kept in touch weekly, as I do with most of our players.
When did you know it was a possibility?
I think shortly after the draft. This is not a done deal, and I just try to communicate with our kids. And each case is different. At this point, we're getting a lot of congratulations and everybody. And there's the team side and the fan side and the success side, but there's also the Kyle Funkhouser side. And so for me this summer, it was, I don't talk money and what he should sign for and what he shouldn't. My challenge to him was, if you come back to get better. And these are the areas you can improve in. And we listed 2 or 3 areas that, you have to believe in your heart that you can come back and get better. I think what you do see in from college to minor league baseball to the big leagues is there's some guys making that quick jump. And at the end of the day, it's about being ready to move through the system, as Coach Williams calls it, with his pitchers, and hopefully for Kyle, being a productive big league pitcher one day. So the time to get to the big leagues might not be any different, but that's our goal and his goal then, if he chose to come back to school, to get better. And he does. He has an opportunity in the next 10 months to improve.
He was viewed as top 10 for so long, and then the last 6 weeks or whatever, he kind of slid down. Can you explain how that happened? Or?
Yeah, and we just hear, the draft is a mystery to all of us, and there's a lot of work, a lot of money behind the scenes. But there was definitely a point where he felt like, I think he was a top 10 to 15 pick. And when he hit that bad month, he hit a tough month. Was that because of the long year before and the USA summer? Was that because of the pressure and the stress, and it started to build? You can tell he's a good kid, and he cares about his family. What I was most proud of was how he bounced back. I thought the way he pitched in the regionals and the super regionals might have pushed him back into wherever that was, top 5, top 10, top 15. That didn't happen, but I think obviously in Kyle's camp, he was wanting that to happen and hoping that would happen, and it didn't happen.
What were some of those things that you said you listed that he could get better at? He mentioned consistency. What was on your list?
No, consistency is definitely a good one. Throwing strikes at a consistent rate. The walks were better his junior year compared to his sophomore year. He definitely improved in that area. I know the breaking ball. I know he and Coach Williams often talk about, a sharper breaking ball and the changeup. He's known for the fastball, the mid-90s fastball, attacks with the fastball, and they love that about him. But, as you watch big league games, and you got to have the nasty breaking ball and the ability to throw that third and even fourth pitch sometimes. So I think improving on those, and then I think mentally, how he handled it, there was a lot of pressure on him, and how he handled some of the frustration, and whether we played poorly behind him a couple innings, we looked like we sleepwalked through a couple of those first innings when he was out there. He had some bad fortune, and we just talked about mentally, you got to have a little bit more of a poker place. He's one of those guys, like I used to say about Chris Dominguez, when he crosses the lines, man, it's a mean, competitive kid. Outside the field of play, he's a big teddy bear. He's really a sweet kid. But when you hand him that ball and he runs out there, and that's what you want. But like I've always said in competition, that brings out the very best and the very worst in players. And Kyle can improve on some of those areas, his worst areas, and definitely get better.
So many times last year you said that Kyle was kind of a guy that would come out on Friday nights, set the tone for your team. What does that mean for your team now with him coming back for his senior year?
Yeah, it's such a crucial spot on the pitching staff. And it's not a given. The one challenge you have to remember with Kyle for the last 2 years, he's throwing against everybody's number one. and he's matched up against the best in the ACC, and the best pitchers we're seeing in a regional, a super regional. So that's a challenge that I think he'll even get better in. But I know between he and Coach Williams, it'll always be to set the tone, and that's by attacking the strike zone, as we talked about. That's probably also about how he handles failure. I think that's an area where we want him to improve in. So if something bad happens, all those young pitchers are watching, and they're going to follow his lead. And so as we talk about him improving, as he gets better, it can only help our pitching staff.
How big of a risk is he taking?
There is a financial risk, but at the end of the day, he's getting his degree. That's a slam dunk, and you put that in your back pocket, and hopefully he's getting better. And so I guess obviously him and his family didn't think the risk was that big, otherwise they would have jumped and signed professionally. So there is always a dollar value, and like in all sports, the signing bonus is a nice check, but to make it, you got to have a career in the big leagues. And I think for he and his family, it was just as much about getting him ready to have a career in the big leagues, and you hope he can make life-changing money and protect his family here in the years to come.
He said he was considering the insurance. Would you advise him one way or the other?
Yes, I think he needs to. I think Nick Birdie and Teddy Bridgewater, and I think star athletes, I think that's the smart thing to do, if anything, for peace of mind. I think it's a good investment. We all have insurance and homes and cars, and for the right reasons. I think peace of mind is a big one. So I think it'd be smart for Kyle and his family to invest in that.
You already had a stout pitching staff coming back. This guy's making you guys even stronger.
Well, anytime you get a Friday night guy and a first rounder back, and when you partner him up with Brendan McKay and the type of year he had, I think the guy who's not being talked about as much, but he is in our office, is Anthony Kidston. I think Anthony Kidston, as I said, Drew Harrington was an X factor last year, and poor Drew couldn't pitch that second half of the year. He can be a huge X factor, but Anthony Kidston was 14-2 going into last season, and I think this point last year, if you just said you got one game to win, who you flipping the ball to? You could argue you got to give it to Anthony. He's going to win you that game, and tough year, a lot of adversity. And it's I'm excited to see the chip on his shoulder and how much success he could have coming back this year. It's exciting for the entire pitching staff, but also for the team. The Cape Cod All-Stars, the Northwoods, the Coastal Plains, the New England League. We got a lot of returners coming back, and I'm excited for all those guys. When Kyle Funkhouser comes back, it definitely increases your chances of going to Omaha and winning a national championship.
What are you looking forward to most with your team heading to the Dominican?
Being able to compete, against when you say the Winter League teams, it's a combination of your Adam Duvalls, your Chris Dominguez's, your guys that are big leaguers, and they're fighting to be consistent big leaguers, but you're also running across the Manny Ramirez's and the guys that still play because they're talented. They just can't play maybe a major league season, but they can play a Winter League down in the Dominican. So I think we're gonna face great talent, but then we're also gonna serve, and I know Kyle alluded to that, to serve in the community, to be in a third world country, to remind us of how good we have it in the greatest country in the world, and all the advantages we have growing up here in America. You hope that it'll expand their hearts, and they'll grow off the field and maybe grow closer together and appreciate everything that we have here at Louisville.
You mentioned everyone coming back next season. The expectations, of course, are going to be high. How much do you embrace those higher expectations?
I do. I've stood in front of our team. I've stood at the leadoff banquet, and they know. I'm looking forward to the day we're preseason number one in the country. Not just because of the current players we have. Definitely credit goes to them. But when you're number one in the country, it's a program recognition. We might not be there this year. It might be 2, it might be 5, it might be 8. At the end of the day, that stuff doesn't matter. But I've stood up boldly and said I'm looking forward to that, because it just says as to where our program is and where we're at, and the expectations are high. No matter where we're ranked, we have to play good baseball and get better throughout the year. And so for me, the summers are long, they're stressful, there's a lot going on. I cannot wait for school to start and practice to begin. That's my comfort place, getting back on the practice field.
You mentioned Adam Duvall and Chris Dominguez. What's it been like for you to see them with the bats this year?
Yeah, what an opportunity for all the Louisville fans here. in this part of the country, but their families. Chris Dominguez, bought a home here in Louisville, and obviously Adam with his family roots, being from Butler High School. So I think for them, it just brings comfort to them that they're playing in a familiar place, and not just during the season, but in the off season, where now they spend a lot of time in our facilities working out. And I think the transition, even going into next spring training, can help both those guys.
So what's the upcoming schedule for you guys? When do they show up, and when do you guys start?
The first day of classes, the 24th, we'll jump into individuals. We'll spend 2 weeks on the field making sure their arms or legs, they're physically in shape. And then about the day after Labor Day, we jump into team practice. That'll give us about 2 to 3 weekends of some scrimmages before we go to the Dominican. And then we come back, we'll be wrapping it up with the Pizza Bowl middle of October. So the typical 6-week team practice and scrimmages, and we will definitely piggyback some of the football games before and after. We got some of those Saturday afternoon, evening games.